What's up with you?
Man, I'm good. I'm good. If you had seen me 30 minutes ago, it looked like Oscar the Grouch and fresh and clean now, bro. I'm good. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm good. Happy release day to you, brother.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yes,
How you?
yes, yes. And it's a happy Bastille Day to all the
Oh,
Frenchies out there.
yes. Yes, indeed.
I appreciate you for joining me. We've known each other for quite a while, so it's cool to reconnect with people in this way. Under the umbrella of music, but from afar. So the pandemic has been good for me, seeing people I haven't seen in a long time. So um,
Indeed.
I wanted to start off by are you from the DMV?
Well, it's complicated. Actually, nah, man, I was about to say something slick with Will and Jada entanglement, but we leave that for another talk show. No, okay. No, actually, I was born and raised in Philadelphia. And then when it was time for high school, my parents moved to Maryland.
Okay.
So I am from the DMV, but I'm also very much from Philly too.
That's what's up. Oh man.
Yeah.
I mean, to be from Philly is, man,
Yo.
yeah. You got the all the connection naturally.
Yeah, man.
Um, so let me ask you this: what's an early music memory that made an impact on you to kind of motivate you to wanting to pursue music, like a early Russell Taylor memory that did that?
Picture it, Philadelphia, 1979, 1980. No, yeah, about that, 79, 80. And my father was a Philadelphia cop. And in the summers, especially, my dad worked a lot because overtime meant like sometimes triple time pay. So I'm 10 years, 11 years younger than my next sibling. So it was just me and mom a lot of the times. So this particular summer, it was just dusk, day turning to night. It was a really hot day. So all the windows in the house were open. Um, and at least on the level that we were on. And then the my mother she put on a record of Foreigner, I Want to Know What Love Is.
Oh wow.
And of course, I mean, I grew up in a musical family. Like music was part of every day for us. But it was something in that moment where it was the intersection of Philadelphia, summer. I'm a summer baby. Like the air, the way my mom was feeling, my father, we're waiting for dad to come home. I Want to Know What Love Is. It was something like that hit my spirit in that moment where I was like, oh man, I want to do this. That was number one. I got a whole list of them where each time, like when I felt like my connection to music, personal connection to music was waning, I had many throughout my life, but that was one of them where I saw the way my mom interacted with that song. I saw, I could feel every instrument that was playing, and I was hooked. I was like, I got to figure out how I can do this. I want to make people feel this way.
So did you start to kind of really cut your teeth? And when I say cut your teeth, I mean that first time that you, let's say, sang at a talent show or got in the studio, was that Philly or was that in Maryland?
That was, let's see, the first time I went to the studio was in Maryland.
Okay.
I was part of in high school, I was part of a singing group. Listen, I grew up in Severn, Maryland, and it was a high school class. And, oh Lord. And the group was called Folk Rock.
Okay.
But more than three quarters of the class was black, and then of those people in the class, like six of them were my cousins. So it was folk rock, all right, but we were doing like soul and R&B and hip hop. And part of the project was that we had to go to the studio and record, and that was my first experience at recording. And it was also the beginning of my love-hate relationship with recording. So
Interesting. That's an interesting reaction when it comes to that. And
you like
I'm going.
recording?
You know what? Recording to me feels like punishment. It feels like being sent to your room. one of my friends just joined, and when we write together and it's time for me to do the demos, when I go into the booth, I feel like it's like I'm being sent to my room because I'm in there. Everybody's out in the room having a good time, you know, kicking it, drinking, and I'm in the room like,
right, right. When I'm working with a couple, like there's a couple of regular writing partners that I get with, we write for other people, for myself, for them. And whenever it comes time to demo the record, I could be in the room and I'm like, yeah, screw it, I'll do that, I'll do that. And I'm singing off, you know? And then they're like, okay, come on and demo, Russell. Oh, I don't want to. And I protest because I feel like when I'm in the booth, like, it's a magnifying glass on everything that you could possibly do wrong. And I hate that experience. I hate feeling that way, you know?
yeah. Shout
But
out
when
to
it's
Vincent.
right, it's right though.
Yeah, it is. It is. Shout out to Vincent Herbert who just joined in.
What's up, VH? What's up, VH?
I'm candid with Russell Taylor, my guy. Okay, so one of your earlier successes came from a collaboration with the Basement Boys.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I actually didn't know about that, to be honest with you. My first exposure to you was like, I think it was '06 maybe, somewhere in between.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I first heard about you. So I didn't even know that the Basement Boys collaboration had even existed. So can you break what that collaboration was all about?
So when I graduated from undergrad at William and Mary, I went back to Maryland and I started working at a very close family friend's nightclubs called a Paradox. And Teddy, part of the Basement Boys, used to DJ at Paradox. And I don't know, somehow in one of the social moments in that period of time that I worked there, Teddy heard me singing. And he was like, yo, I want to get you in the studio, man. And okay, cool. He's like, have you ever sang club music before? No, you know, well, don't worry about it. Just come in and sing like you sing in church music and we'll figure it out. And working with Teddy was a really awesome experience too, because before I knew about the idea of playing MIDI instruments and then playing live, because during that time, what was that? The late 90s, like 97, 98, somewhere around there, 99. I had only experienced, like I knew back in the day in Motown, they played live instruments, but like all the R&B music that we grew up on was mostly like MIDI stuff. Occasionally you get a live bass, you know. So when I went in with Teddy was like, oh, no. Everything we do is live. He was like, we put the blueprint and then I have everybody come in down to the congas and stuff. So, and also learning to write. Teddy was one of my first experiences of learning to write a record as well. Just identifying how you feel, and then let's put how you feel into a song. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was beautiful. That was played the ministry of sound and everything.
Were you always, I guess my question is, did that experience lead you to having a certain type of affinity towards live instrumentation, or were you, do you have a preference? Does it matter to you?
It definitely matters to me. To this day, of all the shows that I've done in my life, professional career, I have never done a track tape.
Nice.
And I have only recently, because I have been disciplined by all of my band members across the globe, that Russell, you got to start adding stems to your show, because I've been against even adding stems, because here we go again, that same thing. When I go into the booth, I feel trapped. You know, when you play with stems, you still have some flexibility, but not the same as when you move in the whole band. Mm-hmm. I have a preference for live music because, remember, my first attachment to music was the ability to make people feel something. And I think it's a dynamic interaction, a dynamic relationship between instrument, whether it's voice or keyboards or guitar, piano, even drums, percussion, whatever. And it's a relationship between the person, the instrument, and the person listening. So when you have something that can't respond readily, immediately, it makes me feel trapped a little. So I have a huge preference, like overwhelming. If I have my way, I will always play with something live.
That's what's up. Can I ask you about William and Mary for a second?
Sure, yeah, let's go.
I mean, I'm a fan of education. So I wanted to know from a songwriter standpoint, have you ever felt like your education has gotten not in the way, but influenced the way that you communicate how you're feeling, uh, you know, in like a text form?
I got you. So I got two answers to that, Cam. If, by the way, you know me for a long time. I like to talk, so feel free to cut me off if
No,
I.
it's all good. I love it. I love it. This
Okay.
is natural. Yeah.
So, two things. Yes, I was an English and government double major. So I spent my life in the computer labs and at home typing, writing papers. You had to learn how to write. So William and Mary, in this regard, is a very rigorous school when it comes to writing. And you had to learn how to communicate succinctly and quickly. That said, it did help a lot of the reading and all that. But I will say that education for me gave me a lot of confidence, like more of a backbone. I'm a spirited person, so I already had a backbone. But education, and a good education, gave me a backbone to go into rooms that I've been in and walk with, a confidence, not to be confused with arrogance, but confidence with like, okay, I understand what's going on here. Let me communicate what my needs are. I hear what yours are, and let's figure this out. And that is priceless for me, because I have been able to exist in a lot of different spaces that had I not gone to all of the schooling that I've gone to, I don't think I would have been as comfortable or given myself license enough to, to ask for what I want in these spaces.
Dope. I love it. I feel like a lot of times in the industry, on the industry side of things, it's shunned upon to be intelligent because there's this attitude that you're going to be difficult or that's got to be your way, or the artist is supposed to be seen and not heard and just dictated to in a lot of different settings. So I just was curious. I know I've had my own experiences.
Like what? Tell me.
Man, I remember being in the studio in Atlanta, and I don't know, I forget what I said, but somebody turned like, "Are you a college boy? Did you go to college?" I was like, thought I was in I thought I was in Boys in the Hood, bro.
Right.
And I was like, we all black, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, college used to be like, the thought of going to college was like the thought of going to the NBA or making it, and in that sense, I kind of was thrown off. In a lot of rooms that I've been in, I've kind of just had to be a lot more observant and figure out who the crowd was, to not to pour it on too thick, because sometimes people get intimidated by.
That's what that boils down to. I can raise you up one. I was actually, this was about 10 years ago, almost to the papers of the signing to a deal, and somebody said, "Oh yeah, don't tell anybody that you've gone to college. Like nobody needs to know that. Like I have a graduate degree, like I have an MBA."
Wow.
And it was like, don't, we're not doing that. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't say I was a child molester. Like,
right.
What is this? Things are changing though, Cam. Like, we want to know. We want to know that an artist has gone to college, because then you can get out here and talk about things. Like, we are not monolithic creators. Like, we absorb information 360 degrees. So why can't we output that information 360 degrees? Get on out of here. Be proud, brother. We still got the bills that I know. I still got my bills that I'm.
What?
I'm gonna be proud of shit.
Listen, yeah, Stafford and Sally Mae and listen, direct.
Right. Still knocking on my door. Pandemic be damned.
Yeah, for sure.
Money.
They're like, "Do you have it? Okay, you don't. Cool. Pay.
Pay $20.
I'm like, golly, man. So look, I said earlier that my first exposure came to you. I think it was around 06. somewhere in between. What was like, that was the first, your first full length project, right?
Somewhere in between, yes.
Okay, okay. So my question is, what was Russell Taylor like at that time, and what was your approach to creating a full length project?
You laugh because you know, man, I was hot, hot under the collar. Um, Somewhere in between happened because I was working on this record, someone we have in common, Needles. Needles
Oh,
and I did a lot of Somewhere in Between, another producer who I still work with, who co-writer for War of Hearts and a whole bunch of other records, co-art writer for Somewhere in Between, the title track. Um, and Corey, this was his first deal that he was in. So we had the same team roughly. And it fell apart. I won't go into the details, but that fell apart. And at this time, I was working a really good job in New York. I was making good money for somebody my age. And I was like, I'm not doing this shit no more. I can't take it. I'm not interested. I can't take all these pitfalls, and I like money. And since nobody's trying to give me money and I can't talk about my education, then, screw it. And I had already befriended, or become friends rather, with Eric Roberson.
oh shoot.
So I still did, like, yeah, I quit music, but I still did music here and there, singing at Soul Village and stuff. And Eric was like, yo, what's happening? What's happening with your project? Like, are you going to put out something? And I explained to him really quickly what happened. He was like, come down to my house. Let's listen to everything that you have, and let's figure out what the next steps are. Drove down there. We spent like 6 hours sitting down listening to music, talking. He was like, bruh, you got to put this record out. And he was like, and then once I know that you putting a record out, then you come back and talk to me, because then I know that you're serious. It's like, okay. 6 months later, I'm robbing Peter to pay Paul, getting these records mixed. I had no idea I was doing this, that, and the third. I put the record out. I called Eric. Eric is like, welcome. I will never forget this. I was walking to the train. I sent him a text message. I was just at 147th in St. Nicholas. Eric called me. The first thing he said was, welcome to the winner's circle, brother. And I was like, oh, okay. He was like, whatever you need, I got you. And that's how it came to be, because I was disappointed that things didn't work out, and then Eric encouraged me to put it out myself. And I tell you, Cam, but you and I both have had the blessing of being able to travel the world on our records, and with the odds stacked against us. And Somewhere in Between took me around the world, and I had no idea,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Golly. That's a great you said 147th at St. Nick. My one of my good friends from Spelman used to live like right there. There's like a seafood place.
Right. Devon Seafood.
Yes, like right there on the corner. She used to live right there. I used to, every time I would go to New York, I would stay at her spot. So when you said 147th at St. Nicholas, I was like,
Oh.
wow. Dang. Okay. TV. Let's talk about TV.
Yes.
So you have been in the world of placing music in television and film. I would say early on, before a lot of indies were really like investing time into that.
Uh-huh.
How did that become an option for you? How did you say to yourself, oh, I got these records, I think I want to try to submit them here or there? What was that process like?
Pardon me, if you see me hitting the screen, I'm trying to respond to some of the
It's
people.
all good. It's all good.
Let's see. So, okay, War of Hearts was the first. I was trying for like a year to get my records placed up in New York, and a lot of the social circles that I traveled in the early years, I knew a lot of party promoters. I knew a lot of record label people. I even interned at a record label, which was torture for me, as you
Oh
can
my
imagine.
gosh.
But there was even a blessing in that. Like, maybe we'll get to it. But I had traveled in all these circles, and I had met all these people and at that time, everybody worked in the business, like where we were hanging out, fashion and music and TV and film. And I tried, but nobody took me seriously because I wasn't a major label artist. But then when War of Hearts, the video came for War of Hearts, I got a tap like back from one of the networks by saying, "Hey, we've seen your video." So the video was actually being played on War Hearts. I did all that politicking. I got it in, and they were like,
Nice.
"Oh, we saw your video. We really like the tune. Are you interested in being placed?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's go." And it wasn't until someone, I guess I got the cosign of my video being on TV that they actually listened to my records. And then once I had that, I just used it to politic with anybody and everyone to try to get my music on. And that shit really helped. You know, music is so hard to break, and it's like triply hard to break. Now, you gotta break it in non-traditional ways.
Yeah.
And that was my first experience with it.
Wow. Wow. For those that don't know, can you tell them like what shows
Hold
you've
on,
had?
before we do, VH just said he loves your song that Brian Michael Cox just played the other night.
Oh wow, that's what's up. Shout out Vince, shout out Pierre Mador as well, man.
Yo, I've been wanting to meet Pierre Mador, like mad, man.
He's right there. He just complimented our hat game for today.
You
So,
know, bro. I
oh
know
yeah,
I had to have my hat ready because I know how you come, Cam. I know how you come.
Yo, man, listen. Okay, so you have this distinction of being a VH1 You Ought to Know artist. And you know, VH1 traditionally, at least there was a time, I know you remember, when VH1 was really not necessarily promoting a lot of black
Say it, bro. It's
talent.
plain. It's
You
plain.
know, black artists weren't on VH1. For people who don't know, it was hard to even see a black video on VH1. You know, I think it was like once Mariah Carey Vision of Love came out, and there were some Boys to Men, End of the Road was something I remember seeing on VH1. And then I remember seeing even a Babyface playing When Can I See You Again, like on the beach. So for you to be a VH1 You Ought to Know artist, I remember being like, dang, you know, it's a completely different situation, I would say. How, as an indie, would you, let's say you're giving advice to somebody first starting out, and they've got something that was going to become like a hallmark like that. How would you tell somebody to be able to use that type of situation in order to further their cause, further their momentum, or whatever? In your in your case, I'm not sure if you want to go into details on you.
So, oh, you mean how would someone use a You Ought to Know in politic going forward?
Yeah, like an example. I mean, using that as an example, but it could be anything. But you know, how did you take that and build off of that momentum in order to keep doing those things?
Okay, got you. So the VH1 thing was really awesome. And so let me rewind just real quick. The penultimate moral of the story is that you can never count yourself out. Because how the War Heart song came to be, we wrote the song, and then the producer, who is still my brother and I love him forever, all somewhere in between, and we still work together. He and I co-wrote Come Morning. Like, this is the long-term brother collaborator. He played my record for a bunch of different camps because he writes for other people and TV and film. So he played my record for other people. And I won't name those other people, but big artists. It's only because it's just they're not important, but to this conversation. But big artists, and each one of them wanted to buy the song. So he and his wife were pressuring me to sell it because it was a big offer. My attorney, who is a big Willie attorney, was pressuring me saying, "You're tripping. Like, this could help you, and you can always write another song. The song is yours. This came from you. Write another one." And like it was going, I was pressurized. And then, you know, all the time that we work as an indie, I'm like, oh my God, is this the turning point? Am I making something stupid because I'm going by ego? But no, like I've been searching for the past 7 years for a record that when I listen to it, I have no sting. There's no excuses. It's like, this is my sound. This is who I am. I don't want to sell it because then I'm selling me. I'm selling who I am to somebody else. And it was a real artist moment. And we've all been there where we're at a crossroads where people are like, don't be stupid. You're being dumb. So I said no. And everybody was mad because it could have been money, not mad because I didn't do what they wanted me to do. They were mad because they felt like I wasn't listening to them, advising me on what was best for me. But I took a chance and I put the record out myself. And then all of these things started happening. And then the VH1 started, the song got licensed to a couple of TV things, blah, 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 blah. And I'm not going to front. The whole makeup over at VH1 is different now. But at that time, there was only one Black woman that worked there. And she was like, this record is strong. This artist is strong. And this is a moment for him. And I know that she went to bat for me. And it came through.
Wow.
And then at that time, I was the only Black or identifying Black artist that had received VH1, You Ought to Know. And I got a lot of support from the network, from all the way to the head of Viacom, then the head of VH1. It was a lot of love that I got. And it was good, particularly for independent artists. Again, speaking heart to heart with you, it was good for someone to recognize that I have the same talent as these other cats that get the million dollar budgets. You know, it's just that my ship hadn't come yet. But you give me a microphone and an opportunity, I'm gonna prove to you what it is, you know, by just showing up. So after that, they ended up splitting it off because VH1, Viacom, they started to absorb the BT, and then there was another channel that was BT-ish at that time. And then after me, there was, and this is no, I will be clear on this too, brother, that this is no like better than, less than, or anything, but it was after my Black that they split it, and they brought Liv Warfield, Avery Sunshine, a couple other people who very much deserved the recognition as well for being out here grinding. That VH1 You Ought to Know distinction opened a lot of doors for me, but I found that it became increasingly more difficult to compete with the Emily Sandays and the Sam Smiths and the Adeles and the Bruno Mars, because I would show up for the things I was called for and I would do my due, but production value and stuff like that was always a challenge. I politicked it probably for about 2-3 years after, and then it just doesn't matter anymore. You know, for me, intrinsically, like for me, I feel like I bet on myself, which is what we always have to do.
Yeah.
Even when, you know, everybody around me was saying this is illogical, I bet on myself, and it provided a whole lot of opportunities. And it wasn't easy, but I take away from that, even years, you know, beyond that I did it, and I showed and proved with a bunch of people that had a hell of a lot more than what I had. So
listen,
watch out.
my thing is always like, use common sense. If someone is competing or has something that you know rings in your ear or makes you remember it, and you can identify that they don't have a budget and all the bells and whistles, what would it be with some bells and whistles behind it? It's just, you know, I think there's a little bit of a lack of understanding for the way things are put together. And you know, you and I have to learn about the nuts and bolts of the music industry by default, by being indies, you know. So it's obvious, it should be obvious to someone who deals in that world every day about what the big difference is between, you know, those that are on the radio all the time and those who are not on the radio all the time. It ain't the music. It ain't the music, you know. So I applaud you because, you know, when you're running your race and you feel like you're down and you look to your left and you're like, yo, Russell just put something out. All right, let's go. You know what I'm saying? I've always looked at you as a peer, genuinely in this fight. So
you too, brother.
Hey,
you
man.
Too.
Yeah, man.
I mean, back in like what was 2010, it was only about 5 of us that were going over to Europe and playing regularly. I remember reaching out to you and being like, yo, they hit me with a number that was low. Cam, what do you think? Like, this is in 2010. we had a, you know, a prayer and a dream and a plane ticket, and we were out here doing things. So I look at you as a peer, a very respected, highly respected peer, and I love your work. And let the record show you bet on yourself, and you got a Grammy now, bro.
My man, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you.
Absolutely, congratulations.
Thank you, bro. It was definitely a sneak move, you know. Being in Atlanta, it's like you think everybody down here is progressive, and you really don't understand that it's not as many progressive Black people down here as I would like. You know what I mean? I just made some assumptions when I first got down here that everybody understood, you know, Prince and understood, you know, all of these greats, and it's very it's more so monolithic down here than I thought it was. Let's just say so. My road to getting in, you know, especially with an artist like a Sting, you know, nobody would have thought, you know what I'm saying, that I would have been able to make that type of connection and write a record and compose and all of that. So I look at it as a win for the indies. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know? I voted for you.
My bro.
I'm just saying. So
listen, tell me about the creative process over the years. What would you say has changed in your creative approach to either artistry or making an album? You talked about making Somewhere in Between earlier on in our conversation. What has changed when it comes to your approach to doing things like that creatively, as let's say now, you know, pandemic aside, of course?
Okay, so Somewhere in Between, I got four projects. Somewhere in Between was like, let me just do the dice and throw it against the wall. I have no idea what I'm doing. Okay, let's go. And ignorance, there was a blessing what I didn't know, because I would have never taken the chances that I took. Somewhere in Between was a practice for me, and I use an artist that we both know and love, is Yazara. Okay. Like me, Yazara, and then Peter Hadar had a show in Detroit way back. And them Detroit cats ain't care who the hell we are. We don't, they like, who are you? We don't care. Are you Mary J. Blige? Nope. Are you like, who was, I don't know, male singer, prophet? Are you that person? Nope. We don't care. And I remember us in some way, we were all like, shit, what are we going to do? It's like, okay, we just got to fucking perform. Yazra ass got on the table, jumped on the table, started singing till the walls started shaking. Then it was time for my set. I broke the band down, talked to the people a little bit, then started singing, you know. Peter did his, like, you know, Somewhere in Between taught me how to take it down to the brass knuckles. What makes you the artist that you are? Like, are you showing up and doing your job? Or are you gonna say, look, they don't know me, I don't care, I give up, get nervous? So that was that. Confessional, which a lot of people don't know about, it was my second project. I don't talk about it that often because Confessional was an exercise when I was dancing with the label so much. And that's when the bigger deal fell apart. And I was listening to what everybody was telling me that I had to do. And none of it felt right to me. Now, that's not to say that I don't like some of the records on Confessional. I did. And I love the producer that I worked with, who was the extremely talented producer, bass player out of California, Tim Bailey. But it just, none of it felt right because I was trying to be somebody that they, like, categorically that I wasn't, that other people were telling me to be. And they had no idea who I was. But I was chasing that deal, so I was willing to do. So Confessional was like getting in touch with, like, knowing what I don't want to do. Then War of Hearts took a little while for me to put out because my feelings were so hurt on War of Hearts. And I'm answering your question in a long way, but it's the answer. It's the deepest answer. So War of Hearts, it took a while because I was so hurt over what happened with Confessional. And I started to play around with the idea of what it takes to write a good song. And then how do you relate to different people? So how do you take how you feel and your perspective, turn it into a good song, a strong song? And then how do you make said product relate to more people, not just me standing on stage pouring my heart out. Like, how do people connect with it? Warheart was that exercise. Then Tin Man the Blue was the last project that I released. That was super personal. And that was more about where I felt I was in life. I'm a Cancerian, so I walk around with my heart bleeding out of my chest anyway, you know. Cancerian raised by an Aries mother, so a bleeding heart, but fire, I'll burn your house down if I have to. And so Tin Man the Blue was very personal and emotional and transparent. Through that whole process, I feel that I needed to be exactly where I am right now. Each thing represented a place that I needed, and I'm a brass tacks guy. Like, I need to understand why something is the way it is. I need to see if this, then that. So now the project that I've been working on for the past year, and I assume it's because VH has been helping me with it. And all the things that I thought I knew, I didn't know. I knew some of it, but there was still a whole chasm that I had to jump over to learn this. And the reality of it, what it takes to write a good song that tells the truth and is classic, what it means to be an artist like the artists that we still attach to that have been dead for many years, you know, decades even, is that sometimes you can just show up, even though I know I'm capable of it, and this is the deep part. Sometimes you can just show up and you don't have nothing. You don't have a mic, you don't have anything, and you just sing and tell the truth. That's all you need. And if a record is capable of standing against that, now instead of all the, ooh, of course, you and I both can do all that. We can do all the trills. We can do all the magic. And I don't judge what is right for other artists either. That's true. But for me, if I can show up in the song and I can sing an a cappella verse and a hook, and I can wow or catch the attention by just letting the song sit without all the bells and whistles, then I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Then I'm plugged into the divine. Then I'm actually showing up with as little ego as possible and making a good ass fucking record.
Yes, sir.
So my 20-minute explanation was to get to that. And I couldn't have gotten there if I didn't go through all that other stuff.
I think, you know, that story highlights to me artist development, you know?
Doesn't exist anymore.
Doesn't
you gotta
exist.
Get one of the old school cats to do it.
I mean, it's that is the art of artist development. So you're A&Ring, you know, VH is helping you, but your journey itself is the A&R process that is missing, you know, and that it provides for that longevity that a lot of new artists of today don't really know anything about. And as soon as they kind of hit a bump in the road, they could literally combust, you know what I'm saying? Have a meltdown. We've seen it, you know.
How many times have you done a show, Cam, when you out on the road and like for 4 days, you're like sick. You're like, you know, doubling up on all types of throat lozenges, not talking throughout the day, but you show up and you sing your ass off. How many times have you done that?
Yeah.
Because you had to. Because of all the years you learned. And it's like some of these cats that have tremendous amount of talent, great songs, but you doing them a disservice because they're not getting like what matters. They're not getting the meat and potatoes of what it is to know how to sing and to channel it into your music and to know the mechanics of your voice. And, you know, I'm with you on that.
Man. Okay, so I want to go to Come Morning, because when the pandemic hit, a lot of artists were kind of scrambling, you know, counting their gigs that were canceled.
I certainly was.
You know, me too.
That was slipped away.
My God!
Damn, I can't. Damn.
But then all of a sudden, I wake up and I hear, I'm like, yo, Russell got a record out? What in the world? And then you pulled the video off. I'm like, yo, you were one of the first that I saw have a record and a video come out and just go ahead and jump into it. And I love when artists adapt. You know, that's the other thing we learn in this journey: adapt to survive. Like, okay, this is what you give me, I'm about to do a juke move, and then, you know, I'm going to keep doing my thing. So I wanted to know kind of the process of creating that record and deciding to go ahead and put it out and all of that.
All right. So come morning. So I told you about the people that I write with, and I'm singing my ass off while we write it. And then when it's time to demo, I'm like, no, I don't want to demo. So one of which just signed on, shout out Curtis Richardson, his Rich Music. Another collaborator is Angelique Sinalou, who is Sinalou, famous percussionist. That's his daughter. She's a tremendous artist, songwriter as well. And then Tim Kavasnowski. So we did the song, and the song was in the bank, like as a demo for, you know, maybe 2 years actually.
Wow.
But it was the demo. And every time we would go, you know, you go back and listen to records that you haven't released yet. You just, yeah, this was about blah, blah, blah. And then when the pandemic hit, I was in LA recording, finishing up this project. And slowly but surely, like, it would happen over. First, I was sick for like 2.5 weeks. Then when I got well, then stuff started shutting down. Sessions started closing, meetings started canceling. Everything in the course of a week just shut down. So I had to bring my ass back to the East Coast. And I couldn't sit on my hands.
Yeah.
Like, what, am I going to be quiet? Like, so I may not be able to go out here and actually record in the studio with everything, but I can certainly like piecemeal this with patience and get this record where it needs to be. And then, so I hit everybody that was involved with the record, and they were like, put that shit out. We've been waiting for you to put this shit out. And one thing led to another. I got a couple things cleaned up. They fixed this, sang this part over, blah, 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 blah. We put the record out. And then my collaborator, Dominga, who is the videographer, but also she's a filmmaker. Dominga hit me up and was like, yo, this song is so dope. What are you going to do for a visual? I was like, shit, I don't know. But I'm going to dance against a ball maybe and like sing. And she was like, no. So she was like, think about it. I think we could do something. And then over the course of a day, we started trading back ideas. I enlisted all my friends, and boom, there it is. We had the video together. And if I may, the thing about Come Morning and the video, which was the byproduct of this, Cam, was that I can't speak for anybody.
No, we good.
To this thing, I didn't feel like anything. I felt like a slob. I didn't feel like being on camera. I didn't feel like singing. I didn't feel like doing shit. The video pushed me and challenged me to say, like, okay, so nothing is the way that you want it to be. So what are you going to do? And it forced me even to go back to what I talked about earlier, like how it arrived. It's like, well, who are you? If you just you got to show up for yourself and do this, because it's not actually releasing a record like this is not just about you. When people see this, it's going to make them feel better. So get over yourself and do your job. And then I felt like everybody else involved, when we had our group release and the chats and stuff, everybody else involved was feeling the same thing. It's like, give me a reason to get up, put on makeup, and get pretty, get cute, and then boom.
Boom. Excellent. Excellent. I want to make sure that we have some time to talk about your new release today. I love the chords.
Are we cool?
What's that?
I said I want to make sure I'm not talking too much. Should we cool?
Oh no, we cool.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you about Wake Up. I was listening to it. I love the way the arrangement, you know. It's not just in your face right off the bat, you know what I'm saying? You ease us into it. But I wanted to talk about the title, because I feel like the title is a different perspective than other records that I've heard, as it relates to the umbrella of, you know, change or kind of things that we could be thinking about. You know, people are channeling different emotions, but waking up is a different is a different subject matter altogether. And I was glad that you addressed it in that way with that title. So I wanted to let you explain to those that are watching about the new single, kind of what inspired it from your perspective, and then, you know, anything else you'd like to add to
Uh, Wake Up is a record I co-wrote with wonderful artist, Scottish artist named Steph Tom, who happens to be white.
it. Okay.
And she goes by, her artist name is She Is Crown. She just released a project on Rope-A-Dope Records as well. Really great artist, like jazzy, new R&B, whatever. So we co-wrote the record together, just about the times that in which we are living. And it was never the right moment. That song is also about 2 years old. And it was never the right moment to release. I just had it demoed. I cut the demo for it so I wouldn't forget it. Mm-hmm. And now is the right time.
Yeah.
The idea, how it came to me that it was the right time too, was that I was listening to the news with it being loud and actually taking a shower. And I don't know what MSNBC, I don't know what the person said, but it triggered me. And I was like, shit, I gotta get this record now. This record has to come now. It has to come now. And then I enlisted all of these beautiful people. It's all live instrumentation. Eric Seats on drums. Stephanie Matthews did the arrangement for the strings. Lene, she played, and because we had to cut everything in our own spaces, so Stephanie played violin and viola, Lene played cello, and they stacked it so it sounded like super big. Then we had Kyle Bolden on guitar, and then my singer friend Cy, Cleveland, Melody, Ray. I'm sure I'm leaving. Thurston O'Neill arranged the outro of the big best. That was the best possible way we could get a bunch of voices to sing. It wasn't the choir voice that I wanted, but it got close enough to with the limitations that we had. And my perspective is like, so many records are, in this day and age, they tell us to be less smart. And when I say they, those theys don't really even exist anymore. But so like in modern times, they tell us artists, particularly Black artists, don't be too smart, don't be too expressive, don't be too Black, don't be too white, don't be this, don't be that, don't be. And a record like this it can be heavy, or it can be like, this is what it is. So if you're an ally, it shouldn't bother you. And if you're Black, it should make you feel good, and let's get to work. You know, and ally too. Let's all get to work. And the nation has been asleep for so long. That's why we're in such a political shambles. The government is trash because we have been asleep. Everybody has had their secret unions and their alliances, and people are getting paid. And Nancy Pelosi has $5 million estate in wine country. And, you know, I mean, we can keep going. It just, people have become complacent. So the idea is like, this is where we are. We cannot keep being asleep. Black people are being, and it's about Black people. It's not about people of color. This is about Black people. And Black people are being killed in the street, and we make up 46 million of the world population. So I don't want to hear this trash anymore. I want us to wake up and get to it. And it can be beautiful, and it can be melodic, and it can be as highbrow with live string arrangements and a damn timpani, you know what I'm saying? Like, it can be all of these things, and we can love on each other. We can be smart, and we can be politically active, and we can still tell a great story. I do have to say that I have some really good news about the song, is that the Poor People's Campaign, which is partially run, is co-head by Bishop Barber, who we've seen on Oprah Winfrey and so forth. And the Poor People's Campaign was started by Martin Luther King just before he was murdered.
Yeah.
Well, the Poor People's Campaign heard the song by the head of arts and culture and said, we want this song. And then like 2 days later, they were like, oh, and by the way, we want to pay for you to do a visual to it. And then, oh, by the way, we're going to up the pay because we want to make sure that this is what we need, what the world needs. So next week, we're shooting a video. I don't know how we're going to do it, with a lot of prayer and a lot of, elbow grease, but we're going to shoot a major production for the song, because you got to take a risk and tell the truth.
Yeah.
And and be honest with you, Cam, I wrote this song because I was inspired, but if I hadn't been through all of these things over the years that I talked about, I don't think I would have had the balls to put it out.
Wow. I hope people who are watching really understand how these things happen for us, because when you bet on yourself and you just go, the universe will conspire in your favor. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So just that, I mean, that's a classic example of it right there. You know what I mean? Congratulations. That's dope, man.
Thank you, man. And if you weren't down in Atlanta quarantined, I would be like, yo, come on, let's go. You ain't again jumping on the plane. Not now, though. I hear you.
I know, right? My brother has traveled during the pandemic, and he's got like the legit, like, you might as well.
Hazmat.
Yes, hazmat. Hazmat. I was going to just real quick ask, are you working on a full-length project? I know we're we're not at the warning track time-wise, but I do know that you have some fans that have been talking about your previous releases that they have enjoyed. I know we've seen Come Morning, now we have Wake Up. What's next?
I have a full project almost completed.
Okay.
And these are records with a polish and a sheen that I haven't had before.
Yes.
And the polish and sheen is not like, like Hollywood polish and sheen. It's just about, something that I just, the craftsmanship of it, I just haven't had before. That project will not be released until we get a little more normalcy, because what I cannot afford to do, what I won't do, is release something like that when there's so many things that are upside down.
Yeah.
But I don't mind releasing songs that are one-offs and I don't care how they do. I just care that people hear them and it makes them feel a certain way. It affects how they feel. So I do have a project just about done, and it'll be coming as soon as we get some perspective about how we're going to be moving,
Cool. I love it. Well, I just got the 2-minute warning. I want to give you the last word to your fan.
I don't have no words left.
You don't got no words left? Oh man. I appreciate you for rocking with me, man. If you ever need anything from me, it doesn't matter what it is.
I would love for us to do a record.
It ain't nothing but a word, brother.
As soon as we can fly like without too much hesitation, let's do it.
Let's do it, bro.
We can work at Nito Studio.
Yes, we can. We can make it happen, man. I'm excited that you joined me, and I'm looking forward to what happens, with Wake Up and everything else you're doing. So thank you once again for rocking with me.
Man, it's my pleasure. And I'm also excited about what's next for you as well. You got to promise you come on and talk to me on my Talk Tuesdays.
Yeah.
And we can talk about you and your journey and your projects and so forth. I'm so proud of you with the Grammy, your first Grammy win. Notice I say your first Grammy win because it's going to be one. And I'm excited, looking forward to what's next to come. I'd like to say to everybody that was typing, the type is so far away. I need my glasses, and I couldn't see it and respond to y'all. But I'm sorry, but I hope that you all got something out of what we were saying without me typing back to you or Cam typing back to you. So thank you for having me, Cam.
No problem.
Let's get to work, make some good records, heal the world.
Yes, sir. Much love.
All right. Peace.
All right, bro. Peace.